Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the Mayor and Board of Aldermen official meeting to order. This is our regular meeting of March the 3rd. We will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation from Chaplain Jason Middleton of Meadowview Baptist, and then a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray together. Father, we thank you for the day that you've given us, Father, just to wake up, move about, breathe. Father, we pray that we've taken this time throughout the day to use it to your glory and your honor. Lord, I just thank you for our mayor, our board of aldermen, Lord, our city officials. Father, the task and the responsibilities they've been given, Lord, can be tasking many times and a great weight of responsibilities. Father, I pray that you give them the strength. I pray that you give them the wisdom and knowledge to carry out those responsibilities. Lord, that they would be honoring and pleasing unto you. So, Father, I pray that you bless their business tonight. I pray that you bless the agenda that's set before them. God, that you guide and direct them. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. We'd like to welcome you this evening. We have one absent space. Vice Mayor Perkins will not be with us this evening, so we will go ahead and conduct our business. First item on the agenda will be approval of the official agenda with consented items, and I do have one change. I know under board business, item A, which is the only item under board business, actually needs to be removed from consent. Alderman Walker will need to recuse himself, and so with that in mind, that's the only item I have, unless there are some other items that anyone would like to have. Alderman Little, I see your hand.
Mayor, under Mayor's business, item 1, I'd like to add that consent.
Any objections to item 1 being put on consent? All right, seeing none, we will add item 1 to consent. Any other items? Okay. All right, seeing that, do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the consented items as revised?
So moved.
I have a motion from Alderman Little. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Beatty. I heard that voice first. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I will now read the consented agenda items. First set of items come under Alderman minutes. Consideration of the minutes of the February 4th, 2020 regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. Consideration of the minutes of the February 14th, 2020 work session of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. Consideration of the minutes of the February 18th, 2020 recess meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi. Consideration of the minutes of the February 20th, 2020 special call meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. Under Mayor's business, it is consideration of the approval of Cornerstone Sports Park project, accepting the best bid from SB Construction LLC in the amount of $3,918,710, and authorization for the mayor to execute a contract. Under Department Business, Planning, consideration of authorization to advertise to fill the vacancy in Ward 1 for the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. Under Planning D's, consideration of selection of the third independent consultant, Tim Getty, for architectural review. Under the Fire Department, we have request authorization for Chief Charles Yarborough to travel to Washington, D.C. on April the 28th through May the 1st of 2020 to represent the Mississippi Fire Chiefs Association for Congregational Day at no cost to the city. Under Human Resources, we have request authorization to hire Brad Skelton as an engineering technician in the engineering department. We have authorization to hire Craig Cox as an engineering inspector in the Starkville Engineering Utilities Department. Under 3, we have request authorization to hire Nicholas Pappas as a customer service manager in the Starkville Utilities Department. In the Police Department, we have number 1, consideration to allow Corporal Chris Gregory to attend Staff Sergeant Vanguard Level 2 Defensive Tactics Instructor School in Coleman, Alabama, March the 9th to the 13th at a total cost not to exceed $1,200. Number 2 is consideration to allow Corporal Colbert to attend Bicycle Instructor School in Tampa, Florida, March the 15th through the 22nd at a cost not to exceed $2,000. Number 3, request approval to purchase 5 Dell Optiplex 7070 desktop computers to be used by the Starkville Police Department for a total of $8,775 from state contract. Number 4 is permission to enter into a grant with the Justice Assistance Grant for fiscal year 20 funding in the area of hotspot policing for the budget modification request of an additional $2,695.50 for a new total of $40,021, with the additional funds to be used for the purchase of software for the proposed equipment in the original grant. Number 5 is consideration to allow Detective Will Simon and Corporal Parker Medine to attend basic crisis negotiation course March the 15th through the 20th in Oxford, Mississippi at a total cost not to exceed $510. And number 6 is consideration to accept a 2007 Ford Crown Victoria VIN number 2FAHP71W37X 136795 from Mississippi State University Police Department free of charge. Under utilities, we have number 1, request authorization for the Honeywell Elster Solutions to conduct a 3-day on-site Connexo NetSense training for our advanced metering infrastructure, AMI, in the amount of $6,500. Number 2 is request authorization to accept the lowest and best quote from Gresco Utility to purchase 3,469 feet of 795 and 1,000 feet of 954 ACS transmission wire in the amount not to exceed $8,200. Number 3, request authorization for the City of Starkville to enter into a wastewater service contract between Mississippi State University, the City of Starkville, and the Starkville-Oktibbeha Consolidated School District for the partnership school. And that concludes the items that were on consent. My pleasure. The next thing we have is the opportunity for announcements and comments, and this is where I get to welcome new employees into the service of the city, and we appreciate you wanting to be here with us. First item, our first individual is Marquise Jordan. He is a maintenance worker for Sanitation and Environmental Services Department. Marquise is from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville High School. He previously worked for Everyday Landscaping. Marquise enjoys working on cars and spending time with his pit bulls, Rosie. Is it Rosie or Rosie?
Roxy.
Roxy, that's an X. You did it to me again, Nav, wherever you may be. Roxy and BJ, is that right? Okay, Roxy and BJ. Marquise is a member of the 16th Section Church. All right, we have Stanton Pope, who's also a maintenance worker in the Sanitation Environmental Service Department. Stanton is from Kansas and worked for Express Employment before joining the City of Starkville. Stanton loves to spend his free time playing chess and working out. He attends Vibrant Church in Columbus. Okay, which one is Stanton? Okay, hello, Stanton. And then we have Lavorius Warren, who also is a maintenance worker for the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department. Lavorius is from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville High School. He formerly worked as a cook for Popeye's Chicken. Lavorius enjoys playing basketball. Please join me in welcoming these 3 new employees to the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department. Welcome to Starkville, and welcome to the City of Starkville, for those of you who are already Starkvillians. Thank you. All right, and I don't have any further announcements. I know we have Taco Hop this coming Thursday, and we have ball games and all sorts of things going on. This is a busy season for us. So anyone from the board have anything they wish to highlight or announce? All right, seeing none, we will move to citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for any citizen to come forward, and you have 3 minutes to give the board any of your thoughts or considerations about ideas that you have, or just to kind of talk to us. And we don't generally talk back, so this is a sort of usually a one-way conversation.
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Adam, Town Ward 7. To the mayor, to the police chief, to the fire chief, to the NACP president, Yolanda Haddock, to the also NACP legal redress. We have some problems, and thought I would bring it to your attention. We have a lot of tension. We got our light bill last month, but this month we don't know what went wrong. And our time is going up 1 hour. Saturday night we'll have long days, short nights, and it's very eerie with people. You don't like to have money on you. We don't know what's going wrong with the lake department, but I'm not bulletproof. And so you don't want to cause a situation where people will get hurt or employee will get hurt because people is upset about why you didn't do this, why you didn't do that. And also, with the long days and short nights, we have a few problems at the intersection of Smokehouse, Kroger, and Walmart. We have a lot of people sun getting in their eyes, and they might overlook each other. And if we would have some blue lights, maybe that'd help. The people pay more attention, but the sun would be a factor in the coming days, and that's just some concerns upstairs.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Anyone else under citizens' comments? Be brave, ladies. Come on up. And gentlemen, that's right. And who's our spokesperson?
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Neely, and I'm a senior at the Golden Triangle Early College High School, and I'm a part of the Mayor's Youth Council. We recently just traveled to Hattiesburg for our annual summit. It was very exciting, so we want to thank y'all for giving us the opportunity to attend this summit.
Okay, and you had a good time?
Yes, we did.
Wonderful.
And hello, my name is Maya Herbrand. Just to add on to what she was saying, we will have an upcoming clothes drive, which is March 7th from 9 to 12. So I know spring is coming around and spring cleaning, so don't throw your clothes away. Please come and bring it to our clothes drive, and they will be at the Need More Center. And also on March 28th, we will have our pancake breakfast from 7:30 to 9:30, and there will be $5 per ticket. So if you would like to come out and eat breakfast with us and mingle, please feel free to ask any one of us to buy a ticket. Thank you.
What were your hours of your clothes drive at Needmore?
It's from 9 to 12.
9 to 12. Okay, thank you.
The pancake breakfast is at Applebee's.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad y'all had fun. All right, anyone else wishing to come under citizens' comments? Anyone else? All right, seeing none. We have one public appearance tonight, and I told Mr. Nicholas that this was going to be the most exciting thing that happened tonight because we had a quiet agenda. Mr. Nicholas, normally we try to do some of these presentations at the work session, but Mr. Nicholas was unable to be at a work session for us in the near future, so I wanted to give him the opportunity under public appearances to come give us his presentation on the smart parking meter options that he has that we're looking at potentially for the Cotton District. So, Mr. Nicholas, I'll let you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, Alderman. My name is Mike Nicholas. I'm the president and CEO of a company called Civic Smart, and we help over 1,500 cities around the world with their parking programs. And so I think I first reached out when I saw that you guys were exploring parking solutions back last year, and then earlier this year the mayor and I spoke, and she explained that you guys were considering perhaps some pilot project to trial some technology, looking at what's new in smart parking. And so as I learned a little about what you were doing, I thought some of the things that we were doing were particularly interesting for you. And so I appreciate the invitation to share a little bit about what we might be able to offer. Just very briefly, so Duncan parking meters have been around since the 1930s. It's kind of one of the iconic brands. If you look at a traditional single-space meter housing, there are a couple million of them around the country. So whether the insides is a Duncan meter or not, we've been around for a very long time. We bought that business a couple years ago. Smart parking clients we have include cities like Charleston, South Carolina, Mobile, New Orleans, Atlanta, Miami, San Diego, Philadelphia. We just were awarded a contract in Jackson, Mississippi. So that's just been signed and will go in this year with some of the technology that I'm going to share with you guys today. And, you know, I think when I heard about what you guys were interested in doing, including the not interested in sort of the hassle, the cost, the maintenance associated with accepting coins, that really resonated with some of the direction we're going in. We're seeing more and more cities that are interested in that because there are so many alternate ways to pay without the downsides associated with coins, particularly if you're building a program sort of from scratch. And so, you know, I think in light of that, the technology that I'll share with you guys today, I think is a combination We've got some very low-profile equipment, so it's not obtrusive in any of your neighborhoods. It's very low cost, and I'll touch on what that means in comparison. Traditionally, you had a choice of putting a meter at every space, maybe a dual meter, which were fairly uncommon, or you had to put a big pay station like you find at the university. Those are great if it's in a parking lot and you're covering 50 spaces, but if you're on an on-street environment, you're talking about covering 7, 8, 9 spaces. It's quite expensive. And so what I'm going to share with you here is, so this looks like a single space meter probably from where you guys are sitting. It would just look like one where it's in the pole in the housing. You can kind of see the housing there. That covers one space. This is programmed to cover multiple spaces. And you can see up there, probably a little easier on the right there, that they're numbers, and these arrow buttons allow you to scroll through your space. Yeah, hold on.
Well, this is on a single space. If you're gonna cover 15 spaces with that, is there one on every single space?
No.
It's just one somewhere in the middle.
Correct. So you would number your spaces. Obviously, there would be some signage to direct folks to this. And then the motorist would just come up, select their space, press OK, make their transaction, which if you're not interested in accepting coins, which I think, again, we're seeing a lot of folks moving that way, it accepts credit or debit card. It can accept a smart card. So Charleston, South Carolina, even though it was accepting credit card, they had an existing smart card program that allowed motorists to refund money if they came back. So they bought 10,000 smart cards to go with 1,800 meters. You can also pay with a mobile app, and not just one mobile app, but basically we're integrated with any mobile app out there. So I'll just pass this around.
Show and tell.
There's a battery in the back that typically gets charged every 6 to 9 months. It's fully rechargeable, so it doesn't drain down. We don't have a solar panel here because the problem with solar panels is they trickle charge, and then you end up spending, these batteries are expensive. So this was designed to be
The charging that's done every 6 to 9 months, that's something y'all come in and do?
that's just part of the typical maintenance. There'll be some level of maintenance, even though it doesn't have coins. Folks, it might be graffiti or something. And what you'll notice is there's a blocker plate in there. So where you normally slide your coin in, there's a blocker.
The coins just become a thing of the past.
They are increasingly. We just signed a contract last week in Leavenworth, Washington, which is a little town in the middle of the state. Same thing, they're going from nowhere, no paid parking on street. They're bypassing coins as well. So that would be what it would look like in a housing. So again, it looks like a single space housing, but it's very small. So it's a small footprint. I had the opportunity to drive through the Cotton District today, and I see kind of the environment that you're in. And frankly, you wouldn't want to have a meter at every space. And even if you have to put a pay station, you're going to have to pour a concrete pad as opposed to just putting a pole in. So I think it's a good solution for you guys. I mentioned the mobile payment apps. So there are a half dozen apps of any size. My understanding is that Park Mobile on the left is being deployed at the university. They're in Atlanta. Pay by Phone is in New Orleans. We're integrated with all of these folks, and the reason integration becomes important is for the enforcement side of things, and I'm going to touch a little bit on how that ties in. It ties in through enforcement software. So what this is here is actually just a smartphone. Bear with me while I unlock it. I didn't bring the printer with it, but it's typically a two-piece solution. So this is just a Samsung Note 10 that's Bluetooth tethered to a little zebra printer you'd see like if you go to the car rental place. It's the same kind of printer, very reliable, and you use it to issue citations. And again, this is used, Atlanta uses it. They have 4 mobile payment providers now, so it doesn't matter when you come to Atlanta if you happen to have Passport or Park Mobile or Pay by Phone, you pay, and it's all integrated here in the back end so that people don't get a ticket by mistake. All the business rules, everything are in it. Here are just some screenshots as examples. So there is a license plate reader built into this. So if you scan a plate in about a second, it'll check. So we have clients where the police department gives us a list of, wanted vehicles, stolen vehicles, you name it, and we can automatically on the back end send that to dispatch if an enforcement officer comes across it. Some cities don't, like in San Diego, they don't want the parking enforcement officer to even know because they don't want them at more risk. So if they're just doing their parking job. So those are the kinds of things that we can do. It's also not only for enforcing the meters, but that license plate reader allows you to automatically time spaces. So I know you guys also, just down Main Street here, have timed parking. Electronic chalking, if you're going to do that, it needs to be efficient. So in Philadelphia, for example, they have 350 of these. They scan 50,000 plates a day. And they use that for everything from permits to plate-based payments to wanted vehicles, boot tow vehicles, time limit parking. So if Officer 1 goes by and then later in the day Officer 2 goes by, they see that was marked. So it really gives you the ability to understand what's happening on your streets. Obviously, you don't need 350 of them, though I'd be happy to sell them to you. But, we have clients that use it as well for traffic violations as well, because we can run both of those, parking and traffic, on there. In the middle, what you see is the map base. So it uses the GPS from here. Every metered space will be mapped in our system. So what you see on the screen there, it's a little hard to tell, green and orange. So if a space is paid, so as soon as somebody pays with that meter, they pay in space 306. It's going to show up on the officer's handheld that space is paid. And what that allows officers to do as they get used to the neighborhood is there may be only 7 or 8 spaces on a block. They can typically eyeball from that and see, is there a vehicle in a space that's orange that's not paid, right? And then they can click and they can see how long until it expires and things like that. And then if they click to that little arrow on the bottom right, it just takes them right into issuing the ticket. It carries the space number over, the time, all that information to make it really seamless, very quick, and accurate to issue tickets, because nobody wants appeals, right? That's bad for the city. I see your courts out there. People get frustrated, so it's all designed to eliminate that. Even with mobile apps, we do a last-second check. So if that space says that it's orange, but let's say an enforcement officer walks up there and somebody's looking out their window, and they quick pull their phone out and they open their Park mobile app and they make a payment, literally in the time, we see this all the time, in the time it takes for the officer to finish, all they really have to do is enter like the state plate and a few things. They'll hit print, and it goes back and it does a last-second check. And our interface with those mobile app providers is typically within about 5 seconds. So it'll pop up and say, this space was paid, don't issue the ticket. Again, to try to cut down, on violations that were issued in error. And then on the right is an example of what the ticket looks like. This is all custom. The whole system is really customized to you, your violations, how you want to handle things. If you want a barcode, if you want an OCR code, depending on how you handle your payments at the window, or if you have a lockbox. Officers can review it. If they see a mistake, they can go back and change it before they print it. So there's a whole host of things around that. And then on the back end, there's a web-based system, so anybody who's authorized in the city has a password and a username. They can go on, and you can see examples here where it'll show things like the revenue tickets issued for the day, for the last 5 days, the value of those tickets that were issued, and the real-time status of what's paid and what's unpaid. There's a whole host of reports that go beneath that. You can see things from a supervisory standpoint. We show where officers are I say in real time, every activity or every 5 minutes, whichever's sooner. So you're never more than 5 minutes away from knowing where your officers were. When I got off the plane today, our client in Philadelphia said that one of their officers PEOs was accosted, and the person stole their device, and they were running away with it. Well, we can lock it down remotely, we can wipe the information, and we can advise the police department where the last location was. That's extreme, but it just so happened, I thought it was coincidental that today it did it. It'll show you where the routes officers take, where they issue citations. There's a whole host of information that's around that type of information to make sure even scanning plates starts to give you valuable information about, are people just moving from one space to another, or one block to another, depending on your regulations. So you start to have all that data available over time, which helps with rate setting. The kind of policy decisions that you guys get tasked with making is, should a space be 2 hours, should it be an hour, should it be 4 hours? Well, it helps when you start to know that after months of scanning plates, this is typical turnover that you'll see on a block face or on a street. Maybe we can adjust it based on data as opposed to just, guessing, or the loudest person who believes that it should be regulated the way they think. What I did here, and we're almost at the end here, appreciate the time you've given, based on a map that the mayor provided here in these, 6 areas, with either estimated or either existing or potential spaces, kind of aggregated that, and I came out with about 406 estimated spaces. Using a criteria that we would never make someone walk never use more than 15 spaces per meter, because you don't want them to have to walk too far, you don't want to have to scroll too far. It averaged out at 9 spaces a meter, 45 of the meters with the housings. One handheld device was all you'd need to enforce that area, with one or more mobile payment apps. And so just to kind of give you a sense, when I say that it's a low-cost alternative, using a pay station, which would have to be deployed, because many of these blocks, there are a few that were quite long, but most of these blocks are going to be about the same. So using 45 of them and about $7,000 installed per pay station, that's a pretty good price. It would run about $300,000. If you used traditional smart meters that take 1 per space, again, based on industry pricing that we're very familiar with, it'd run about $200,000. If you installed 45 of that meter with the housings, 5-year warranty, everything, that would come under $50,000. And on a monthly basis, that will be about half, a little less than half, probably closer to $1,100 versus $2,200 used on kind of traditional pricing. So, I think it's a combination of, I think it's well suited for the neighborhood that I saw. I think from a technology standpoint, it's the right decision to look to move away from coins. It's just heading that way. By tying it into an efficient enforcement program, because you need enforcement to get compliance. But you can do that at a very, very affordable, both upfront cost and a very affordable monthly recurring cost. So that was the highlight.
Okay, do we have any questions? Any questions of Mr. Nicholas?
Okay. Mr. Nicholas, first of all, thank you for coming today and talking with us about meters. We're trying to explore our options and figuring out what might be in the best interest of the city to look at this. And I think I'm at least interested in looking at a pilot project to see, test things out and see how it's going to go. So with the integration of all the different parking apps, do we have the flexibility if somebody wants to pay while all the parking spaces are public parking and anybody can park there? Is there the flexibility of paying by the hour, paying by the day, paying so much? Do you have that flexibility, or is that going to be the parking apps specific?
No. So what you, as the policymakers on behalf of the city, set things like days, hours of operation, rates, how long you're going to limit the parking, even if it's paid. I mean, we're seeing some flexibility emerge in that space. So right. Pittsburgh, they decided to do away with time limits. So they're downtown. It's actually $4 an hour, but it's a 10-hour window of enforcement. They have attorneys who come in, the executive director is a friend of mine, he says, I'm stunned every month at how many times I'll see somebody has come in at 8:30 and bought 10 hours of time at $40, which is basically the same as parking in a garage. So there's a lot of flexibility. So you decide how you want to regulate that block, if you will. And then based on that, both the meters themselves, and then we work with all the app providers so that everybody's in sync, right? There needs to be a common numbering scheme, right? That has to be updated because, as your public works department knows, streets change all the time, right? There'll be spaces that'll be removed out of service, there'll be others that'll be added, or, construction will end and you'll want meters put in there. So we keep that all in sync. That's part of what we do. That way, when a motorist, it's sort of transparent to them, when they enter a space number, whether it's on the meter or whether it's on whichever the apps they want to use, it'll tell them what their hours, rates, time limit is.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone, Alderman Sistrum?
Will we have the flexibility in this system to set different rates for different times? Have times when there is no fee, have other times that there's a different rate?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is my first time to Starkville, so I'm not familiar with what happens, for example, during like a football weekend. But if there's overflow into, the Cotton District that I saw, or other neighborhoods that may end up being metered, you have that ability to set special events, special rates, no parking, free parking. It's all, there's the back-end system manages all of that, and that's something else that we're seeing is becoming much more common. So El Paso, Texas has about 1,500 of our meters with sensors as well. They've got a AAA baseball team from the Padres. So when the baseball schedule comes out, we program in there, and they charge, I think it's like a $15 rate for the time periods of the games. So they'll switch to a 4-hour block, and it'll be, not $15 an hour, but it'll be a block rate of $15 or $20 for those 4 hours, just for those days when that's an issue. So those are the kinds of tools that, it used to be that parking, it was very rudimentary, right? Unless you were changing a sign, right? Now, you can see even on the screen, it's very high resolution. So all your ability to control all that is, really total. You guys decide what you want to do, and the system does it.
And how does that get communicated generally to the public, especially in an area where we have visitors who are here off and on and not necessarily familiar with
Yeah.
city and the rules?
No, that's right. So it's interesting because that's one of the big challenges going on across the country around some of these things where you're using dynamic pricing or demand-based pricing, right? If you use your Uber app, you see that it's surge pricing. Well, it's hard because you're right. If a person comes in to park, now, if they use the apps have the ability to tell you before you get there, right?
Like where a spot is?
Well, if you have sensors, so we've done that in some cities where, like the Park Mobile app in El Paso, where there's sensors, it'll actually show you a map that shows you where a vacant space is. But even if you're just pulling up to kind of get your environment, you can see what the rates are before, like if it's a special event. With the meter itself, typically you have to get to the meter, and then you can read it on the screen.
Oh, no.
Well, that's right. I mean, and most folks, depending on the circumstances, they feel blessed enough to find a space. And so, geez, I had no idea it was going to be $3 an hour when it's usually $1 an hour, but it beats, walking another mile.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Carver?
Just some new terminology. What was the scofflaw?
Oh, scofflaw. A scofflaw would be somebody who's either boot or tow eligible. So, depending on, some cities, or in some instances, states set rules. If you have 3 unpaid parking tickets over a certain age or 5, then you're eligible to be booted or towed. So using that scanner as well, if you get that hit, it will pop up. Similarly, like permits. So I don't know whether there's been any talk of a permit program in the Cotton District or not. I mean, in areas that tend to get congested, that's one of the other tools. Same thing, the system can enable, plate-based permits to show up. So it may be that somebody who has a permit can park for a longer period of time, maybe all day.
I think that's a potentially, I think that's an interesting option as well.
Yeah, and then, that way visitors who don't have their plate registered in the permit program actually have to leave within 2 hours or it shows up. In Detroit, we actually implemented a program where if you were a city resident, they set a program where meters and no parking violations are 50%. So you have to register your plate, proof of residency in the city, and then when we scan that plate, it comes up as a resident, and right when the ticket's printed, it just shows at half the price. So there's a lot of flexibility as you decide how you want to manage your streets.
Okay, interesting. Alderman Carter?
I think you said dynamic versus demand-based.
Yeah, so there's been a movement around, I mean, you asked the question about sort of like special events, right? We're seeing some cities where during certain times of the day, if it's more crowded than others, they're gonna raise the rates under this principle. It's actually a professor out of UCLA who kind of set this model that says you should always have about 1 or 2 spaces per block vacant. And that's when you know you've priced it right. And folks who don't want to pay that price will go further away, or maybe they'll go off-street, right? I mean, most cities actually don't have a problem with supply of parking. It's that people don't want to go into what they perceive as the inconvenient spaces, or, you know, an extra 2 blocks. So by using pricing, you can actually lower it in some outlying areas to pull people there, maybe make it 10 hours there so that your employee, I'm just guessing based on my experience, you know, you don't want employees parking on Main Street. The businesses want, you know, customers coming through there. So if you want to encourage folks to do that, one way is to move in some of your outlying areas and provide 10-hour parking. So the employees will be willing to, you know, park there and walk rather than have to go out throughout the day or risk getting a ticket. So dynamic pricing is just kind of using that information about how busy it is to set rates.
I see that definitely being an issue in Starkville.
Yeah.
Employees, you know, occupy a spot. And my last question was, for the chief, you seen, you know, I know we've had some moves in the past to hire, we don't have any additional staffing needs, but you have to hire somebody else to go out and check this, or don't already have somebody doing this?
Alderman Crawford, I haven't had a chance to analyze the impact on that, but we would be taking on a little bit more responsibility. It's something that we definitely need to possibly consider.
We have Officer Curtis White now does our parking, not enforcement, but marking, tire marking, that sort of thing. So it might add a little territory for him, but he does it, what is it, 20 hours a week?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Yeah. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
and that's where the LPR makes it very easy, because he can just walk down the street, scan a plate, scan a plate, scan a plate. If it's all 2-hour parking, then we program it so it defaults to that. So he scans the plate, hits time, and then when he comes back later in the day, it'll just show when he last scanned that plate. So.
All right. Thank you. Anyone down this end? Alderman Beatty?
Mr. Nichols, where all would these proposed to be? Where do we propose to put these?
We were talking about doing it in the Cotton District to start with.
What all would that comprise?
Well, we've got University Drive, Lampkin, Russell. The map that we've got up there on the board, if you look on the scale there, you've got University Drive, you've got Russell, you've got Lampkin, Mill Street, Spring. A few spaces on Spring were included in this big square. But the initial proposal was mostly, if we were going to do a test case, it would be along probably University Drive to see how it was impacting the neighborhoods.
So you estimated 405 parking spaces, what this would comprise if we did all of it?
Yeah, if you did every bit of it, it's
Yeah.
approximately 406 parking spaces.
That's 1 per 9 now.
That's the way yeah, we actually looked at the blocks and just tried to estimate where we'd put them, and that's where we ended up with 45 of them, which just comes to 9.
Now, how are motorists when you put these things in here know that if they're, I know that, I guess they'll see them, or how are we going to notify people that now that we've gone for free parking to metered parking? I mean, how do you normally do that?
Yeah, so there are a couple ways. One, you need to put signage up, because you need to direct folks to the meter. And so, you know, when there's a meter at every space, everybody kind of just intuitively knows what to do. In this case, it's more like a pay station where you need signage to say pay at the meter. The other thing you need to do is mark the spaces, number them, which tends to trigger, if people see a numbered space, they tend to be a little more aware about what's going on. So those are the primary ways. I mean, obviously you want to do a whole PR. I mean, I cannot stress enough that you can never over communicate with the community if you're considering putting paid parking in. no matter how many hearings you have, no matter how much feedback you get, no matter how many consultants you hire, talk to businesses and residents, once you do it, people are going to say they never knew anything about it and they'll be opposed. So you need to have a very proactive outreach campaign, including, and that's one of the nice things about the app providers is they're very good at social media because that's their whole business. They don't get business unless they get people. So they'll, if I land in a town that has a Park Mobile, I have all the apps on my phone, I'll get a push notification informing me that Park Mobile is available. And so for university visitors who come in, whether it's for games, alumni, visitors, new students, if they come from Atlanta and have Park Mobile, they'll learn it's a Park Mobile app as soon as they get within like the geo-fenced area. So there's a lot of those different tools that are available.
What about the lower tech kind of folks?
Well, that's where I think things like a smart card might be good for those folks. I mean, there absolutely are concerns about, maybe somebody doesn't have a credit card. Most folks have a debit card. But a smart card is that option where, you can sell them here through your window out there, where somebody can just buy one with, whatever, $20 on it, and then they can use it. As I said, in Charleston, if you come back to the space and you have time left, you can reinsert it and get the time back. You can't do that with the credit cards, but so there are some, ways like that to allow, folks who may not have a smartphone.
Is this 1 meter per 9 spaces? Is this typical, or is this about that? What's the average you said?
Yeah,
I know you probably said about that.
No, I mean, for on-street where there's like a block, you'll typically see in that range sort of 7 to 10. A few of the blocks were quite long where they're on University where there were like 30 of them. So you're not going to make somebody walk all that way. So that's where I would put 2 or 3 of those in there just to shorten it down.
But you can still use your phone, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's a good point because the frequent users will use the phone. And one of the nice things about inviting in multiple, so until a year or so ago, 2 years, you picked one mobile payment provider and they were the exclusive. And they would typically charge motorists 35-cent convenience fee on top of your rate. With competition, which is now emerging, you start to see the price come down. Some app providers will try to charge only 20 cents to the motorist. Others start trying to work with businesses to give coupons, right? So you get a nice kind of dynamic. And again, for a university town where you're going to have somebody come in, if they already have an app on their phone, they're not going to want to have to download a new one. But if they see that sticker, and what I would recommend is on each of the housings, is just put a little 1-inch sticker for each of the app providers. Somebody sees, I'm a Passport person, I see the Passport app, I just get and pay, and I never think twice about it.
Is Jackson putting in something similar to this?
Yeah, so Jackson's not putting the multi-space in because they already have most of their housings. So for them, it was actually less expensive to simply replace their old coin-only mechs with, it basically is the same.
So they're going to meter hit at every space?
They will. They have some where they'll be dual space, which it looks the same. It just covers 1 or 2 spaces. They're putting sensors in. They're using the same handheld system. They're going to use, I think they're just using Park Mobile as their one.
They're a lot more expensive than I'm certain it would be.
Well, yeah, I mean, the housings themselves are fairly expensive. So, if you already have your housings in, it tends to be more cost effective just to replace the inside. But again, in your situation where you don't have the housings, you don't want to be putting a housing and a pole at every space or 2.
So you're estimating this initial capital cost will be $50,000, would you say?
Yeah, for the meter piece of it. The handhelds are I just went apples to apples on the meter side. I did provide kind of an indicative quote, I think a couple weeks ago with more details, but I was just kind of going off the top of my head to see, kind of comparing it with more traditional.
Cities lease purchasing or outright purchasing, how normal was it?
Most cities, almost all cities just buy it. I mean, that's one of the other things that, I know you guys are looking at, other options. I think most cities are very averse to any kind of revenue share or anything where they're paying over time, particularly if the cost is as low as kind of what our options are. You're sort of better off just to buy it, install it. You're going to have a recurring monthly fee, which manages the software on the back end and the communications and all that. interface with the payment network, the credit card networks and things.
Is that on a per meter, how you?
Per meter per
establish
month.
it?
Yeah, exactly. And so, you'll be paying that anyway, so I think most cities just would prefer to buy the equipment and put it in. Now, we have had clients who, if you can't and you want somebody to finance it, you can do that. I mean, you guys know better than I do. As soon as you start debt, typically it becomes a big issue with, your bond rating agency, even if it's a small amount. But we can certainly bring options like that, which we do. It's just typically at the end, most cities don't opt for it.
In smaller markets, college towns, any kind of average return on investment, or return on, or what these things generate?
So, I have models like return on investment models. I could give you. What I need is some basic things like what rate do you expect to charge? What's your fine amount? Because I can look at the cost both of the meters and the revenues from both meters and tickets as well. How many hours, those kinds of things. If you're only doing 20-hour-a-week enforcement, well, obviously you're not going to write a lot of tickets. You just want to do enough to get in people's minds that, yeah, I need to comply. I'll pay. But I'd be happy if, and I can send through the questions that if I get answers to that, I can give you guys a model and you can play around with it yourself and say, oh, if we change the rate. In general, for credit card meters, you're not going to want to charge less than $1 an hour because the credit card, I noticed when I walked in, right, you guys on your window, it says, credit card payments at the window, it's a 3% fee, right? Well, typically what you'll see, it's the merchant processors charge you 3%. What's not on there is plus, say, 22 cents, 17 or 22 cents, which doesn't mean anything when somebody's coming in to pay a water bill or a tax bill. If they're buying $1 worth of parking and you're losing 22 cents plus 3% right out of the gate, so you don't want to be doing 50 cents an hour unless you're making a minimum amount of payment. So that's the only reason why I would typically say you wouldn't want to do it for probably less than $1.
Any college towns in the south that y'all doing right now?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, again, there are almost no credit card meters anywhere that I know of that's less than $1 an hour. Just the economics just make it hard. I think
The university is $1.25 for the first hour and $2 for the second.
and that's one of those other escalating rates that are also folks are using where, okay, if you want to pay for a longer time, you're going to pay even a premium.
Right.
So.
All right. Anyone else? Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming.
No.
We sure do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Look forward to
And don't forget your meter here. It's blinking. It's blinking at me. So
Yeah.
I don't want you to go off without it. I'm sure they love you coming through. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you again. All right, the next item is the board business we've removed from consent, so Alderman Walker, if you wish to recuse yourself, now would be the opportunity. And City Clerk will show that Alderman Walker has left the room. So, do I have a motion for this appointment?
I would like to move approval to appoint Wes Gordon to the School District Board of Trustees for a 5-year term ending March 2025.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? Second from Alderman Little. Further discussion?
I would like to just say that I know that I know that Mr. Gordon intended to be here tonight. He had a family emergency and couldn't be here, but I wanted to thank him for his service. This is a very important job, and I really do appreciate all those people who step up and contribute their time to the city and to the school board.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. It's unanimous. And we will let Alderman Walker get back in and get seated. Next item we will take up is going to be the special event for the 2020 Kidney Care Awareness Walk on Saturday, May the 2nd of 2020. Do I have a motion?
Move approval, Mayor.
I have a motion from Alderman Little. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Walker. Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying.
Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And Alderman Little, does that motion track the suggested motion in the packet that says that the applicant will provide insurance consistent with the city's special events policy no less than 20 days prior to the event?
Okay. And the second tracks with that as well. So, all right, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion by 5-1. Matter carries. Consideration of the Starkville ministerial. I have a motion from Alderman Little. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Walker.
Same verbiage.
Same.
No, that insurance has been provided.
Yeah. Okay, so any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. By a vote of 5-1, that motion also carries. We have a claims docket. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move approval.
I have a motion from Alderman Walker. Do I have a second? Second from Alderman Little. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, by a vote of 5-1, motion carries. Well, I tell you what, I don't have anything to update you on. I had thought I would, but there's nothing to update. So we can eliminate the need for an executive session if that's acceptable to the board. Yep. All right, if you'll let me read my little statement for the work session here, we will be out of here. In accordance with the notice as required under Mississippi Code annotated 254113, the board will be having a work session on the 13th of March. Never mind that it is Friday the 13th, at 10 a.m. That meeting will be held at City Hall at the second floor conference room located at 110 West Main Street. The public and media are invited to attend. Notice should be provided of this work session within 1 hour of this meeting by posting such notice at City Hall. The notice for the work session shall be made part of the minutes of the board meeting, and the work session will be an open public meeting where the City of Starkville and the public and press are certainly invited to attend. Do I have a motion to recess?
So moved, Mayor.
All right, from Alderman Little, do I have a second? Second from Alderman Beatty. Further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we are in recess until March the 17th. Thank you, everyone.